stocks. Kitchen knives. What should we look for? Should we take a trade? With that, there's my big head. There I am. Welcome to I Love Stocks. Oh, let me see what's next here. Oh yeah, I know what I was going to do. Got one more thing to do and I'll be ready. I was really excited about how last week turned out. I know a lot of people, if they took some of our tips last week, they did very well, especially on the market reaction of the election, pre-election. I got one more thing to do here. Called it pretty good. Now we're going to call the post-election. Do a couple. One more thing. Get you some coffee. We're going to have about an hour, and then we're going to take a small little break and then get back at it for another hour. But I really like catching knives. You hear me talk about engulfing candles. Okay. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay. So fallen knife. Kind of what we want to learn today a little bit as we look at stocks and charts and pullbacks is we're going to look at reasons for a fallen knife and how to catch them and when to catch them and when to know a confirmation. You know, they always say don't try to catch a fallen knife. Well, to me, a fallen knife is an indicator for a buy signal or maybe a sell signal. And a lot of times when I'm looking at a falling knife, I first look at different time frames. You can catch them on a 1 minute, you can catch them on an hour, you can catch them on a 15-minute, you can catch them on a 30-minute. Depends on how you trade. You can catch them on a daily. You can get like 3 daily black crows. You know, if you're looking at a daily candle, for example, these would be like a fallen knife. Then you'd come back with a nice engulfing candle usually after those 3 heavy-duty daily candles that come down. And also you could see this in a daily time frame. Like when you have that first engulfing candle right here, you might want to hesitate and wait for a confirmation. That's where you see that bullish engulfing candle right there. Bearish, I mean. Then you have the bullish one here after the rotation. A lot of times you want to be patient on that first candle and you need to kind of wait for a confirmation. A lot of times in my confirmation when I'm catching if it's on a daily time frame or if it's on a minute time frame or if it's on a 15-minute time frame or even an hour, especially if I see like 3 black crows, something like this on an hour time frame, I get very interested to maybe, if it's a stock that I like, I'll take and I'll run it on up, but I'll need some kind of confirmation. And that's usually when the trend line breaks above this first candle right here and you have a higher lows and it stays within the body of this candle right in here, this first one. Same as sell signals. I always try to look for a sell signal. Maybe after 3 good hour candlesticks, it's time to start focusing on indications of a sell. A lot of times people are going to take profit. Same as the daily. You know, you could probably scalp this one here for 3 or 4 days as long as it ran up all the way back to the top of the base of this here candle. So catching knives, you know, we caught a good knife and called it out last week, and I'm going to post that chart right now. And I'll show you another couple ways that I like to look for knives when I'm looking for a knife. Here's one, for example. Let me see what I got this off of. Right here. I use TOS. I use 3 different platforms for different kinds of trading. I use TOS for swing trades and scalping. I use that's Ameritrade, and then I use Stock Trade for scalping only, and then I use Tastyworks for trading options. So we got NLOK right here. I noticed it was down pretty big. And I just started looking at the daily chart. And I'm looking at this, also looking at the 200. So this is the one chart that I use a lot when I'm looking for knives and maybe bounces up off of a knife. And that's the 200 SMA. You might want to jot this down on a pencil and paper if you don't already have it. Other great traders talk about it in the room. They talk a lot about the SMA and the EMAs. But when I'm looking at SMA, I'm looking at a slower time frame. It's not more or less price action. But you see once here before we bounced right off that 200 right here. Now we're back down here on this last knife. Now I want to know why did it bounce like it did? And then we had that nice little run. There you have those three candles, those three big candles that I talked about earlier. Here they come again, fruition. So it's trying to tell you something here. And then this last one was a red candle, so you knew something was going to go down. Earnings came out, so you want to know why it dipped. So I always like to look at the news. I like to figure out, okay, here it says here, EPS beats estimates. Earnings were up, so it wasn't, because of earnings. So was there any other issues that it had? Was there a CEO that stepped down? There's reasons for a company's price to fall. And it could be a sufficient decline in revenue and profits. It could be a negative report on a company's, missing on market estimates. So we're spot on there. We have, the company's fundamentals. Are they going bad on them? That's number 4. There's a lot of reasons. Number 5. Malpractice in the company, fraud charges, that bring a stock down. So you want to pay attention to that. Changes in management, maybe a new CEO. Sometimes that's good for a company. Sometimes it's bad. People that promote the company itself, the outside influence could be bad for a company. There's other, you want to look for reasons. Is it just because of profit takers? People thinking that they just want to take the profit because it's had too good of a run. Maybe the stock's overextended and needs a good pullback. But news and being in the now. So, you got to really pay attention to that right there. Let me see, I'm missing something over here. We'll move this right back over here now. Oh, yeah, I know what I was doing. So that's just a few takeaways. Just a few takeaways of something, of a company pulling back, reasons. So you want to know the news before you jump into stock. You want to be very patient. I've learned through many of mistakes that jumping right into a knife is not a good idea, because you can get cut, and you don't want to go in real big on your first entry, maybe, unless you really know that it's a response of good news and people are just taking profit. That's another big thing right there. And so let's look at Twitter. Called Twitter last week on our lesson, if y'all remember right. See, I think this could bounce off this 200 right here, is what I was trying to say. We could probably bring it back up to this 50. This is at NLOK, just because the earnings weren't bad. I don't see anything in here, to me, that would cause that stock to go down. So this would be a good stock for me to look at come in Monday. Write that down on paper, NLOK, and let's try to find some resistance levels. We know we've got us a nice little knife here, so let me think. We're going to try to find support. Let's go to a 20-day. We're not going to find nothing. Well, there you go. See, we were right down here just a little bit ago. So that's going to be like your little low right there. We're going to put a line right there. We're going to find a channel. See, it's a downward channel. You see the lower lows every day? And every time it bounced up and tried to hit that 200. Now, this is a different way of using the SMA. I also like to use the EMAs when I'm being more technical. Let me put that back down. This one right here, we'll put it on 20-day. We're staying above that 9, so we're still bullish. We got a pennant flag. That's what we formed That's a different stock. There we go. Got to get my marbles together. See, right now we're bearish, but once we start going above this here, 9 on the 20-day, that's 9 EMA, we could probably run it back up to that channel. Now that channel of resistance is going to be right in here. If you notice, we bottomed out right in there, and then we're topping out right in here. Then we finally had that huge break. So that's where we're going to try to find resistance. Now this is a knife. If you took it on the first day on the pullback and after hours, it had bounced up and you could have got you a little bit out of it pre-market. Then you had what you have right here. You see that? Those 3 red candles? That's 3 black crows. Then you had that engulfing one. She came back and retested with higher lows, which on the bodies of these candles, which is telling me it could remain and break this channel up here of resistance. And we're going to draw that resistance in right now here on the 20-day. And that's right in here. See, we're going to, that's called a pivot point. 2094 will be the pivot point. We're in the channel of support down here, so that it can pull back. Now we're going to try to find a solid support down here where I think it can hold, and I think it's right in this area right in here. And I'm going to keep on adjusting it to this place right in here where we had that second higher low. That's going to be your support level. That's where I think it can pull back. So as long as we stay in this channel or we break this resistance, we can go ahead and break the next resistance levels, and that's going to be up in here right around this 21, and it reaches right in there. I wasn't even looking over there, I was looking over here. Then I'm also going to go off these over here for resistance levels to get it back up. Me, I would have probably jumped in this trade Friday in LOK just because of the sell-off, and then I seen the rebound here. Then we had the 3 black crows, the engulfing candle retested with a higher low. Bam! I'd take that trade. I guarantee the stock will go back up to, will definitely break 2094 and get back to 2159. Write that down on paper. Now it's the same thing as last week calling Twitter. If you were here last week, I talked about this channel right down here, channel of support. And I said that we could go back down here. You could go back to the previous video and kind of check that out. But we were right down, I think we were right here. Then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days after that. We did pull back to that support level at 39.06. And how did I get this? This was a knife. This was, I talked about why I didn't like the trade. I talked about what the news was, and it was already knifed. It already knifed to here, okay? And I've already charted this up previous where I thought it was going to pull back to, and look what happened right here. Come Monday morning, we pulled right back to that top line of that support at 39.06, and I called it out in the room, and you had a nice little run up here to the next channel of resistance. You see this right in here? This is consolidation. This is where you want to start drawing your resistance bars or your support bars when you're in a knife. And that's the same way as when we come down here on the 20-day. Let's go a little bit farther back to the year. See, we had this little consolidation right here, and then we had that ascending triangle. Same thing we had right here. We had the triple top breakout. Well, I thought this was a little bit stronger channel than this one was right in here. So that's why I called this down here a lower support. And look, we hit that sucker right there. Perfect. Perfect call. Perfect call if you were listening last Sunday and wrote these numbers down and got in at that 39.06 pullback. Now we're getting back up here to resistance level. Why? It's right here, see? See that? Look where it stopped. Look where it stopped right here. On the 5th day, it started to pull back. It had that nice little pullback right here. Now, I mean, this was a good call if anybody followed me in this trade. And then run it back to resistance. This is your resistance level at 43.66, 43.12, and look, it's perfect. You don't get any closer than that right there. And that would have been my exit. Because this is a whole new channel. But you're looking for previous channels that are strong. And as I was pointing out here on that yearly, this was a strong, see where we're up here. Another indication that this is a very strong channel right here. And we couldn't break that resistance. So when we did break it finally on the triple top, we pulled right back to that previous highs. And that's what makes it so strong. So when you're catching a knife, and I've had each one of these marked down. I had one right here, because that was going to be a support level. And this one's going to be my second support. And then I had my third strong buy. Try to always keep that in mind. Don't always think that you're going to be a bull, especially with an account like Twitter. You know, this really disgusted me when I called this trade out, how Jack acted. I got a Twitter account, but you know, his presentation to me was just sour grapes. And as an experienced trader, I went off on just pure instinct for the pullback. So everybody kind of understand that. Now remember, a falling knife, you got to try to wait. You got to be patient. You got to wait for them pullbacks in the support levels. And a lot of inexperienced traders think they know it all, but they don't go back and they don't look at history. And charts are like that. Same as Snap. You know, Snap had that beautiful breakout on earnings. We never did test these areas before, but to try to find a support, you know, for the pullback was rather difficult. I mean, you can go to a 3-year weekly all-time highs, so you're not going to get much out of that. You can go to a 1 year or 1 month. Once you had the big breakout, you can try to find supports. For one, you know it's overextended. 2, when you start leveling off on your candles on the daily, that's another reason that you might want to go ahead and take your profit and get out of a trade. Triple tops, third reason. So you want to come to the 20-day. You had that big breakout. Something was baking. Something was cooking right in here. We had a nice little sending triangle, and then she had the big engulfing candle. So you want to try to find supports. I'm going to erase this because this is kind of junked up for right now. We'll start real fresh. Then we had another breakout on, I mean, this company, and same as Piton. We're going to look at Piton here in a second. Huge breakout, just didn't stop. Then finally, after about the 5th day, you had to say it's overextended. You had the double top, and then you both pulled back. So you want to try to find, and I talk about this a lot. Let me see if I can find it on my. Talk about it a lot. You want to try to find a resistance level and a support level. So a lot of times when you're going back in history, you want to try to find these channels. They could be different kind of channels. They could be a horizontal channel. It could be a wedge. It could be a ascending triangle. It could be descending triangles. But places of consolidation. And that's when you want to try to find it. You hear me talk a lot about the base, the bodies of the candles. I get more out of the body and more strength. It tells me the buyers and the sellers are in the trade or not in the trade, who controls the trade, and I can find that easily on a daily 1-minute candle. I know all about and there's a lot of good tape readers in the room. Vegas, Mr. Basscat, they look at where the money's going, where the money flow's going. And if you know the money's going into a good company already, you got to dig a little bit deeper and try to find indicators, because you like the trade, for one. It's always getting good news, for two. You got institutions buying it. You got fat cats buying it. You got big people, a lot of attention, social media buying it. So anytime you see these big engulfing candles that come in to play, or something like this down here that's out of your trend line, out of your support level, they start to become strong buys. And that's when you want to start looking for indicators, reversals of the candlestick patterns, like the 3 black crows you see here. There's my exit. But maybe if it was a trade that I like, and we've had a lot of tops up here, maybe I'd run that up a little bit higher and took it up to this resistance channel. You hear me talk about channels a lot. Nobody can guess exact. I've been known to get pretty close. And when it comes to finding supports, because I've done so many of them, and that happens through repetition, through practice. Same thing with you all. And so you start wedging it out. You start spreading it out. Okay, I think it can fall between $1.50 and $1.75, and I'm going to look for a pivot point. I want to look for an area inside this channel that would be a nice little pivot point, maybe for a first entry. Because you see many times the pivot point, you could have maybe got in the trade on the pivot point area and run it all the way up to resistance. Pivot point, resistance, pivot point. Inside this candle could have been 10-minute, 5-minute, even a 1-minute. You could have got in at the pivot point, knowing that you're missing a run up. So each candlestick tells a story. And it's good to memorize, have like 3 certain patterns, 3 certain paths you want to take. If you're taking a fork in the road, you want to take the right side, or you're going to take the left side, or do you want to take the one right in the middle? Which path is better for you? It depends on what kind of news you're going to take. What kind of news, and the volume of the trade, the money flow, depends on what side of the fork of the road you want to take. I always want to be on the right side. And then Amazon, another great example. Amazon Friday and Thursday. Check Amazon out. Amazon, I love Amazon. It's just, and it knives so beautifully. And I called this one out. If you were here in the room last Sunday, I talked about Amazon. I said this would be a strong buy if we got down here to 29.82. We dipped almost right down to that on Monday. We hit 29.50, called it out in the room, and we ran right back up to the resistance levels. Here's another knife. You got to know the trend is another. The trend is your friend. And if you're able, and I like to be very boisterous in the morning. I like to, because I get excited pre-market. I know when I wake up and I hear Stella or Lisa Ann talking, I know what kind of market we're going to have the rest of the day. So when that first hour comes in, when that bell rings, I'm ready to start rolling. I'm ready to catch in first engulfing knives and take the trade for the rest of the day and run it up to maybe an hour, hour and a half, and get out of it. And then maybe hold some. Depends on what kind of trade, if it's responding the way I want it to. A lot of the stocks that we talked about in last week's meeting, they all responded very well. Amazon was a good one, example. Facebook's another great call we made. Amazon, look here. We hit resistance level that I called at 33.09. I had one up here that we had to hit, and we hit it. Pulled back. Then I had the resistance channel, which was a support channel at one time. Once we broke that, and it knifed on down, patience. You know, the trend wasn't there. You don't want to get in this trade after hours. And then if you did, you'd have lost your butt. But then, man, you're getting down here to this little support area. How did I get 29, 29, 82? There's no way I can find it on this chart right here. So I'm going to pull up a year. And there was a pattern. If you all remember the pattern that I talked about Friday, or last Saturday, this was the pre-election pattern that I talked about. It was a triple bottom play that I called on Amazon. I said, we can get back down here to this support level. These support levels, support level, support level, base, the body of the candle, same as right here. I went with the body here and we lined right in and we hit them two there. So that could have been a triple bottom play. Now if you look at the, and we had a higher low. Another indicator, we could not get to that double top. So if you were in this trade and you saw these candles right here, it might have been a good time to exit. Why? And I talk about this a lot too when you're catching a knife. This is a good example right here. You had this bottom right here, and you ran all the way up. You had triple top. Then, you know, it kept holding trend right in here. Your trend is your friend. So it kept, you could draw that trend line all the way up. Then once it broke that trend, could have been a good exit point back to that resistance level. But we called it triple bottom. I said we could touch that and then start to bounce back up and then get back up to this resistance level right here. I didn't want it because we had a lower high. And I was figuring we could probably do it one more time before the election's over and then have another pullback and then get back up and start to squeeze out and then break this resistance at 3,500. So let's pull up the 5-day, and this is how it played out. We come real close to hitting that bottom support. We had the breakout. I called this little trend right here from this day right here, from this on up. She went ahead and broke that, pulled back to that trend level, bar again for a buy. See, we popped out of that channel. That when I saw that, that's when you get really bullish on a stock. You don't want to try to jump into it. You want to wait for it to pull back. But we got that off this trend line, see? This is a pennant flag. And then she held support off that trend line, off that pennant flag. But bam. And then here we are, and we failed right here. But I think we're going to bust past up there and create a triple top, eventually break out. But that was another good one. Facebook was another good call we made last week. And then we'll get to talking about stocks, which you want to talk about. Another one we called was Facebook. Down here at the bottom, you know, we had them bad days. And this is another thing when I talk about trend. Okay, when I'm talking about trend, I'm talking about they come in cycles. A lot of them come in like 3-day cycles, and some of them come in 5-day cycles. If you have 3 real ugly days, 3 real bad days, here, you know, ugly day, then she bounces up because this Facebook's a bullish stock. People are going to buy the dips. And people are going to follow the trend. Smart traders will. You know, this was another ugly pre-market. Just kept selling off, and then you had this during the first hour. Then she just kept selling off. Then she bounced on back. The trend was still negative. One. And then this was a good day. If you'd bought down here, and I probably would have, from being right here, I think I'd run it up to resistance level. This is a resistance channel I was talking about earlier. So on these knives, you can catch these knives and run them up. You can take about a 50% gain off of a pullback or off of a breakout. Sometimes I'll pull back 50% from the previous low. So I always pull up and I pull up yearly, daily. I pull up a 20-day 1 hour, and then I have my daily 1 minute that I like to look at when I'm looking for reversals. And I've been calling the SPY out, if you all noticed pretty well. Facebook was a beautiful call. You know, you got in that option on Facebook, down at that bottom, you run it up to that resistance line, you'd have been a happy camper. How did we get the resistance? Let's go to the 20-day real fast, and then we'll get to talking stocks. This right here was a resistance. I would have already sold it probably, and I would have, shoot. I did flip it again, scalp it again for two. I made about $5 grand on this last week on Facebook. It was just too easy to call. See, if you look at the yearly, you had that same pattern. Then you had that higher low. And just, it was very strong. The trend was strong. You had these higher lows. And I knew, but we were going to have them bad days. It was going to bounce and break that resistance. So I'm still bullish on this. We just got to look for that pullback. And we can find that on the 20-day. And that's going to be right in here. This is going to be your first channel of support. And then we got to find a PP inside of this channel right in here, pivot point, and that's going to be right here. Why? Previous high, couldn't break the triple top, pulled back 3 or 4 days. You had a nice 2-day run, found the channel, oversold because it had a channel right here, bam. Once it got in that channel and just run. So we're going to pull back. And this is the channel of support that we're going to look at on Facebook. We're going to keep raising the bar. We're going to keep raising the bar on this stock. You know, I think we're going to have a president, either Biden or Trump. I think it might be Biden. The market loves Biden as a president. Why? Because he's going to pump all that money into Wall Street. They're going to be writing checks right and left. They're going to do an infrastructure bill probably right off the bat. And shovel-ready projects, you know how that goes. So yeah, I'm bullish. I'll be bullish. I think you can always be bullish on the Wall Street almost. You just got to follow the trend. Let me see what else is next. So, you know, earnings reports. It's another way to catch knives after earnings. For example, Facebook had beautiful earnings. Look at here. Now, Facebook, I mean, that's why it was a strong buy to me when I talked about it last Saturday. Because of the earnings were good. The knife was unexpected. He handled himself well in front of Congress. And you can see the difference between Facebook and what Twitter reacted. Twitter acted poorly. Facebook reacted positively. The reason it was going down is because of censorship. But the earnings are just marvelous. And it happened the same thing during COVID, if you remember. And it happened during the racial tension that was going on. Facebook dipped and then rebounded proudly. Same thing happened here. So what we got to do is we're going to raise our bar. We're going to raise the bar of support. And that's going to be this. And look, I already put a pivot point in here in this channel. And I didn't have this. I just chalked this in. And I just now noticed this. I got that on the 5-day. Probably on a daily. But let's look at the 5-day, 5-minute. Yeah, see here, we had a little bit of constipation right here where she went up and right, pulled constipation. I said it pulled back to 279.12. So that Facebook, that's where our support's going to be. It's going to be at the top of that pivot point in that channel that was on that 20-day. So you want to look for pullbacks. This thing can knife. You could have, we've had all them good days. This thing can pull back and maybe start to bounce right here on the top of that 20-day channel. So remember that. When you're catching a knife, Same as right back in here. When it was up here and you had the big knife, you want to look for the previous lows. Now, if you'd got in this trade back here to this previous low, knowing you're bullish on it, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, you had 2 days opportunity to watch it go sideways. And another bullish pattern right in here is this right here. This is called an inverse head and shoulders. You get the right shoulder going up. That's bullish. You got a higher low. Then you had these 3 black crows come in. Bam, bam, bam. The buy was signals right here. This is on an hour. And I would have probably not even noticed the buy signal on an hour if I was looking at a different time frame. But if you're looking at an hour, there's your buy signal right there. 3 black crows, and then you're going to have your soldiers come in right behind it. Not all the time, but it is and another way that I like catching knives. Let's go ahead and pull this up to there's 2 different time frames. Let me get this other one here. I'm going to pull up a couple stocks. Amazon would be a good one. Let me see. So I was charting this up in here, looking for that channel, trying to find that resistance to break out. See that? We had them higher lows right in there. That's telling you something right here. And you had the triple top, and then you had this one right here, chance to get in and take the trade off the 50. Once it broke that 200, you're off to the races. And that's how I would use maybe that. If I was using a daily 1-minute time frame, you had the golden cross right here. Another example, maybe if I wanted to, and it broke my resistance level, and I seen this starting to cross up, and I'm pretty positive that the momentum and the volume started coming in. I'll be looking at my RSI, see if it's oversold, or here you had a nice little pullback right here on the RSI off the 50. Held that 50 pretty much, and you had your time to exit once it broke down over the 50. But that's just one way of trading it. Another way of trading it is trading it maybe off the 200 on the daily 1 minute. This is the EMA. The other one was the SMA. Started failing, but I would have noticed his reversal a lot sooner, probably before everybody else, because I'm looking at these candlesticks. I think I would have probably almost got in this trade once we broke this candle right in here, the second one, and see, that would have probably been a mistake. And I sat there for about 10-15 minutes, and then it would have dipped on me again, and I would have probably added to Amazon, because I'm pretty sure I was at a bottom and would have ran it all the way up. And I can also do this the opposite when you're wanting to short. Now, Amazon had a pretty sharp sell-off in the morning. So when them higher lows started coming in, here it wasn't as steep, it was pretty much even. But here, the second time down, and you had them higher lows come in, that'd have been a pretty good little buy signal for me on the reversal. That's trying to catch a knife. You had your first fake out. If you were a little patient, I would have probably jumped in the trade. And then once it found weakness, I would have probably got out of it, waited for the second dip. So always try to be patient. Here's a good example of patience kicking in. And then the rest of the day, you could have, I called this trade out at the end of the day down here, and made 500. I could have made $500 on that option play from right here on this higher low all the way up to here. I took away $175. I got out of it once we hit the double top. But the sucker ran all the way up here, and it was at, $2,700 by the time I looked at it again. But I think we're going to have another pullback on the stock. When it has real sharp increases like it does, it kind of pulls back a little bit. See, we had that higher low. That was the time to exit. Definitely. So that's it. Always remember, catching knives, you want to take your time. You want to find out what the news is. You want to know patterns. Then you want to maybe play supports off previous highs. Here's a good example. You know, when I talk about previous highs. She's not blowing up. Oh. If it has a breakout and you have 3 white soldiers, maybe you're going to have them 3 black crows. It might pull back to yesterday's previous high, or even yesterday's previous low in the support level. You know, you always want to have prepared for a third scenario: hard buy, strong buy. And if you know the stock very well, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple. You know, Apple's another great example of calling a trade out if you really want to follow. All you need is 5 tickers. That's all you need. And you can trade 1 good, 2 trades out of it a week. But here's another great example. We're bullish on Apple. I know a lot of other fat cats that are bullish on Apple. We had a huge sell-off first thing in the morning. You know, I'm typing in the room. I like to get in here and get boisterous and say, okay, I'm bullish on Apple pre-market. I'm not in the trade, but I'm bullish on Apple. I already know I'm bullish on Apple pre-market. Higher low, higher highs. We're setting up for a nice little breakout. So when I come in here and I say, oh man, this thing's pulling back big time. This is going to be a strong buy. It's going to reverse back up. So that, I already know pre-market, I want to catch this knife, but I want to be patient. I got to look for a pattern of reversal. I always have a fake out. They always have a fake out a lot of times. 80% of the time you'll see a fake out. And you have these big engulfing candles. You know, you'd have thought, okay, this is pretty much where support is. We held here and we're down a little bit lower, but then you see that we held this ascending triangle pre-market. So that's a pretty good little support level. I want to chalk that in case we pull back. I also want to put one right back here where we had this previous low. You know, I want to chalk that in. So I'm looking for places of consolidation. And I'm going to find this on a 20-day, 1 hour. Called us at the very bottom. Okay? Last Sunday, we talked about it. Saturday. So this thing getting ready. You had that big engulfing candle right here. And you had the day of hesitation. Then the 3rd day came in. This thing's ready to buy. This is the 3rd day. Uno, dos, tres. 1, 2, 3. Bam. 1, 2, 3. You have the day of consolidation. You have an inverse head and shoulders. You could have another breakout on this thing to run up back up to these other resistance levels on Apple. I know the calls are bulls are on this trade. So Saturday, that was a wonderful call. Bullish candle pattern right in here with that engulfing gap up. 1, 2, 3. Remember, 1, 2, 3. Look at this sell-off. This is just beautiful pattern. Beautiful, beautiful trade. That's Apple. Okay. Let me get back to the room. Let me take a drink of water. Anybody have any questions on what they're doing wrong when they try to catch a knife, or if this is explained to them that history matters, and watching patterns reverse, candlesticks, the volume, the news, being in the now, all these take into consideration. COVID, presidential election, everything was pulling back. And remember the pattern I talked about. and I think Apple had it too on the yearly. We had this up, down, lower, high. It's a flag. You know what kind of flag that is? Anybody tell me what kind of flag this is that's in the room right now? I'm going to draw it out for you. Maybe you can get a better view of it. We'll go up here to the top. Bam. We'll go to the second high right here. And we're going to extend that on out to the right. Bam. We're going to go down here. We're going to hit this wick right here. Oh, let's just hit the bodies. No, let's go to the wick. We'll go to that next one there, and we're going to go ahead and extend it on out to the right. This, it's called a pennant flag. Pennant flag can be bullish and bearish. But you can, if you know how to follow the trend, you can play it with the trend. The trend is always your friend. So when we broke down here and we hit this moving average, this is the 100-day EMA, it was time to buy the stock because we broke out of trend. Same as up here. We broke out of resistance. Once we hit this trend down here and we broke out of it, she popped right back up. This is Apple. We're bullish on Apple. I think Apple can get back up to this resistance level here maybe next week, about 125.73. And actually, we almost want to clear this chart up so we can see exactly what we're looking at, but I'm going to draw this trend line up here. That's how we're going to look at Apple next week. I'm going to get right off that bar right there, right up off this candle right here. Then I'm going to find an equilibrium right down here for another right there. See, we hit that wick there, that body of that candle right there, we're good. So this is how we're going to look at Apple next week. Let's look at the 20-day real fast. Can it pull back? We had a higher low, a little bit, but that's the resistance we got to break at 119.24. I think it can pull back maybe to this area right in here where we had this previous high. Let's go ahead and put that body right there, that candle right there. That's going to be our low support. We're going to raise the bar on Apple too. We know that we were oversold on Apple when we broke this trend down here. So we're looking for a pivot point. This is a beautiful pivot point right here at 116.21. Now if we double bottom right there, we can run it back up to 119. So jot down 116.21 for your low strong buy with a double bottom back to a triple top breakout. That's going to be Apple. Pennant flag. Perfect. So catching knives, you got to look for reversal patterns. You got to be very patient. Follow the trend. Look for a pattern. A lot of times, now look here. I'm finding this a lot on this chart right now. Okay. There's 3 black crows. Nice little reversal. Back to the 200. 200 EMA on the hour. Here's your nice little engulfing candle right here. A big old sell-off after hours. Could have bounced back up to that trend. A lot of these are pretty good spreads. I'm just looking for these candles, and I'm looking for repeat patterns. And that's one good thing about, might as well do a little shout out to Trend Spider. Give me a second here. So this is what I've got set up on Trend Spider. For people that aren't real familiar with Trend Spider, it is a platform that can give you indicators of candlestick patterns For example, right now I have on here checked off the hanging man, because I wanted to learn more about the hanging man candle. And you can look at them in different time frames. You can have the hanging man, or you got the evening star, morning star, you got the dragonfly doji. There's different kind of candlestick patterns that this can indicate for you and help you out if you're not familiar. Three black crows, I want to apply it. So I have it in here. We have a lot of the hanging man candles right here. You can just kind of check them out. Different time frame. That was on the daily. Maybe you want to look at an hour. You got the hanging man here, and you had the big gap up. So this is always good for me to go back to and look at if I'm wanting to learn a candlestick pattern of some sort or somewhat to get me in and out of a trade. There's a spinning top. Let's see if I can find that in here. You got the hammer, the hanging man. Let's take that off. Got a lot of these spinning tops. I like to play reversals on spinning tops. So they're always nice to look at when you're on here. Take it down to 1 minute. All the spinning top indicators come in. You can really spot reversals real easy with this. I use it sometimes, but I'm usually stuck on that mirror trade platform. So that's just one. There's a shout out to Trend Spider. We are affiliate of them. You can see it on our website if you want a piece of them. Okay, next. Where's my little... move this over here. I'll take a drink of water. And we'll start talking about stocks you all want to talk about. Anybody want to be first? And we'll try to spot knives and other things. Patterns, pullbacks, support levels, breakouts. Let's look at Piton. Don't be shy. Piton, another great earnings play. Earnings were magnificent. We're bullish on Piton. Bears have been trying to tackle it here for the last couple of weeks. Earnings came out and they were magnificent. And then we had the kind of huge breakout and sell-off. It is forming a descending pattern, but I'm bullish on this stock. So I want to erase all this. Well, first I want to look at the yearly. Look at that, just a beautiful run. Just a beautiful run. And then we had the pre-election sell-off, and then she went ahead and bounced back on up. So let's go ahead and erase all this mumble jumble off here and start fresh with Piton. Definitely bullish on it. We definitely had a low down here, and we're going to chalk that in right now for this candle right in here. Another knife situation. The news came out. Earnings are great. Okay, we got DKNG and NIO. We're going to look for another little spot in here for like a little pivot point. Support level. I'm going to get a big picture. So I definitely want to draw one right in here. Now I've got like a pivot point, I got a low support, and I got kind of like the first support area that I'm looking at. I want to define this a little bit, but I still want to draw in a couple more resistance levels. So I see one right in here. We've had our little pullback, pretty generous one. So I think we're going to start building that flag. We talked about that pennant flag. I think we're going to start building that. So sometime next week we're going to squeeze in here, and we're going to just kind of be not very greedy with it. We could see a double bottom at 110, not possibility of that happen are probably 2 out of 8. We definitely can see this 118 area. That's like the pivot point in this new channel that we're creating. So we definitely want to get down here and just have just a low case scenario right down here at the bottom, and then another one right in here. That's on the 20-day. And we're going to try to find a resistance level, and one right in here. Then you have the double top, which is right about that. So let's bring it to the 20-day now. We'll get a lot better, different look. We'll get a lot different picture. See, we had a double bottom break. She broke resistance. On a 20-day, this is your pivot point area. This is a very strong support area, and it can be a very strong resistance area if we break down below it. That's a 20-day pivot point. We could not break it. We did pull back to a double bottom, and we broke it and had the breakout here. Now we're forming a flag. We're forming a flag. So we want to mark this in red. This is a very important area for us on the knife. In case we do knife, in case we do have a pullback, we can have a triple bottom and break back up to resistance. If we do have a knife and it drops 15 bucks, we can get back up here to this 124 area. It's a hard place. Same as if we have a breakout and we get up here to resistance levels, we could pull back to this support. You see right here, I mean, it didn't take much. Same as here. We had the big breakout. She pulled back to the support area. Broke out again. See that little support area. Resistance. We broke out resistance. But it found an equilibrium right in here. So if we break below this and it gets down to this lower tier, that's this lower channel. We see how we had the triple top. We had higher lows. It's telling you right here, this ascending triangle, that we're going to have a breakout. The higher lows, and we're going to have a breakout from there. So that was telling you something right here in this channel. Always remember them higher lows. If you remember the higher lows, you'll save your butt many times. Just from if you like miss this trade and it pulled back and then it created a higher low, you've been fine. Or if you'd have took this trade in here and maybe took it from right here and just got in on these two candles right here. I think it'd be trend line 2, yep. You'd have found resistance all the way up there. So I can still use this as a resistance bar to break at 127.72. But yeah, that's a pretty nice little call there if you were in the room last week when we were talking about Piton. Double bottom, bam. So DKNG, you know how I felt about that one. It's another one where I didn't feel too happy about. We did find a reversal down at the very bottom, that double bottom. I don't think this is a stock that's going to break out and run. I think it's going to kind of find an equilibrium. Let's go ahead and clear this. Well, let me look at the yearly first. Had an ugly sell-off. Ugly sell-off. Sports to me is a dying franchise. It's going to take a lot until they get out of politics. So that's why I got a diverse opinion about them and biased opinion about them. So the resistance level we need to break is going to be this 44.61. You can see that double top right in here. So that's kind of like going to be your hard resistance. Anything above it's going to be a gift. And if you wanted to really get into the trade, you know, this lower support down here where we had these previous highs at 37 would be a strong buy. And your first support is going to be this 50% retracement on the year. And that's going to be right here at 41.31. But here's another knife example. You had the ascending breakout here, and she ran up real nice. So to break resistance, it'd have to be 44.61. If you can't get past that, you'll pull back to this lower support level down here at 41.47. That's Duncan. Oh, CURL if I love. Nile. Nile's another one. I think it's overextended. Nile's a very bullish, strong trade. We've got to clear this up. Is Nile due for a knife? I would almost say so. Let's see where I want to put my buy. Let's look at the 20. Well, right here definitely is a support level. A spot right in here. Whoop. I think we're due for a knife. But I could be wrong, because of Nile I'm very bullish on. Been calling Nile ever since it was down at $3. Come on! So that, to me, is a little support channel right down here. Between this bar, actually could have been a little bit lower. Between 26.31 and 29.22 would be like the real strong buy. So let's bring it to a 20-day. See if we can just get a better look. You got just a beautiful run. Beautiful run. And then you have the pennant flag. Okay? It's decision-making time. Pennant flag, I showed you that earlier. Trend. It's also got a trend here. Trend is your friend. Now, I talked about them when catching knives. So we'll just we'll follow this. We'll magnify this up. Okay, now 38. That's going to be my low scenario. Right down here, right around 38. I notice we have a blowhorn pattern right here. A lot of it, another pennant flag. Another pennant flag. See, that's another pennant flag. So we're going to have a little resistance bar right on top of that flag on this hour daily time frame. Now notice when I do that, I got a confirmation. So if the knife is going to pull back, here's your pennant flag. Squeezing, then you had the breakout. So I want to draw this line right here on this top of these bases of these, and look what happened over here. See what happened right there? Look at that. Perfect. Fell right back to that support. So that's a double confirmation. That's going to be probably maybe our support area. And then you got one more just right above it, and we want to chalk that in too. Then we want to kind of get down here to the bottom of this flag for base, for low support scenario. And then you had another one right here, another flag. Triple top breakout, bam, another flag. And then she pulls back to the top of that flag. Solid support. So we're going to try to find an equilibrium in here in this flag here for the knife, for the pullback. And we can have a low scenario case. And let's just chalk it down here at 34.53. Anything can come in. It could get a reaction to an offering. It could get a sister reaction to all of the electrics. They're all going to go down incorrect. So the algos will be working with it too. So I always got to keep in scenario. We did have a pennant flag Friday, and it did squeeze. So it's either going to go up and break resistance up here at 43.66, or it's going to pull back in this channel. We have a low scenario of 34.53. Then we have a little scenario right in here. You know, I can't see it going down to 34.53. I can see it parking its butt right here at 36.86, and that's where I'm going to go ahead and put in that red line because of that flag. There's a real strong flag right there. If you have time and you have patience to watch this, I do believe it will improve your trading. Some people think it might be a waste of time. That's all right, because everybody has found a way to find a way to trade. I take different paths, so I'm open to any kind of way. I'm more open-minded. A lot of traders are closed-minded. My way is the highway or the only way, and I don't particularly like traders like that. I appreciate traders that can adjust and learn from bits and pieces of other traders. I think that is your best scenario. So yeah, I think we've got a little pivot point right here at 36.86 for a strong buy down here at 34.53. I'm just thinking of patterns when I'm looking for a knife for a pullback. Right now it's kind of setting up in a bearish pattern where we could have a pre-market pullback or maybe a ready to open pullback and then bullish on the trade. So if it does pull back to like the 39.16 area, there'd be a strong buy for me. And if I have patience and it decides to go pull back harder, I'm thinking 36.86 for a strong buy. And that's Nile. I'm very bullish on Nile. I'm bullish on any stock, but you just got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. Buy at support, sell at resistance. CURLF. Then I'm going to do a couple others. CURLF. Nice one. So we're going to try to look at this in a strategic. The pot stocks are all hot right now. Okay, they're on fire, and if Biden wins, this sector will keep moving up until we start finding resistance levels. Now we're at an all-time high, so on a yearly. So first thing pops in my mind is I want to go back and see what happened during 3 years ago. Previous highs that we had 3 years ago when we had that huge breakout. I want to try to find a resistance, and I want to try to find a knife in case it decides to pull back on a weekly, 3-year weekly chart. So we got resistance right up in here. 11. That's how you're going to look for a resistance level. You're not exactly going to use the wick, because what you have with the wick of a candlestick is a fight between the buyers and the sellers. And you know, with more wick on top, that the sellers are in the lead. And the more it's at the top, the buyers are in the lead. So you want to kind of keep that. Here we had what I would call a blowhorn pattern, where we had the breakout finally. Blowhorn. Megaphone, as a lot of people call it. Megaphone pattern. That big old megaphone. So this was a bullish. If you got any of these dips, you'd have been okay. Now we're getting back up to that 3-year resistance. So I'm going to look at this as a weekly, and I'm going to draw these. I'm just looking in here at the weekly, okay? So I'm going to draw resistance and support lines as we're going down. Pretty strong right down in here. And in fact, I'm going to make this little red line. Why do I call it strong? It's a pivot point Seems like a lot of these bodies are holding up into it, the mid strength of it right in here. So 1046. Right now we're at 1084. So that's going to be like a solid support level. And I'll drop her down a couple more. These are weekly candles. I'm just looking for consistent areas for right now. And we're going to go ahead and pull up that yearly. Low scenario. I can't see it. This is a real solid area right in here for support. I'm going to make this a red line. I'm looking for previous highs that failed. In case it decides to pull back and we had this like higher low right here, higher high in this area right in here. I'm going to make that one red line. Now this is how I'm going to look at this, okay? This is a low scenario support level right down in here, right under 10 bucks. The previous high, it's going to be a strong support. Strong. So let's pull up the 20-day now. If we're going to catch a knife, are we overextended? No. Are we in a trend? Yes. Are we flying on news? Yes. Are we flying on speculation? Yes. Is this sector growing? Yes. Everything is hitting high five right now. So but the only thing about the marijuana sector is it's not strong enough. It's a weaker sector compared to like the auto sector or maybe staples or maybe it's solar. It's another sector that's kind of weak at times during the seasons. But I believe that the marijuana sector and many people that talk about it is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And definitely got stronger during this last election. So we're going to get back up to you want to go back to 3 years? You want to go, when you're looking at this sector, you want to go back as far as you can to look for the highs that you can. Want to get high? So this is what I'm looking at. Low, strong buy down here in this red area. That's between 970 and 985. That's where I think it can pull back in a strong scenario situation. We had the ascending triangle. We have more or less a pennant flag right here. Okay, you see what I'm saying? You're forming these patterns. Get used to learning patterns or learning that bouncing off the 200. There you are, bouncing off the 200. Strong buy opportunity. Strong buy. So I've got this chart set up. I have the TTM set up, telling me it's squeezing right down here. Strong buy scenario. Telling me when to get out. Tell me when to buy. Another squeeze right in here. This chart alone has 5 or 6 different principles. It has the Fibonacci set up. That Fibonacci's right here at the pivot point on the 20-day. Anything below this pivot point is going to be a strong buy. Anything below it, if it hits this 200, very strong buy to bounce up, to find resistance. So this one chart, I can play it 5 or 6 different scenarios when you're catching a knife. Now here's another scenario I bet you all didn't think about. When you want to catch a knife and you got a VWAP chart set up, you got your 200 set up on it too, EMA. This is a daily 1 minute. You have your RSI. Look here. You think it might stop there at the 200 or maybe down here to the VWAP? Which indicator you think is a stronger buy? GURL. F if you're wanting to catch a knife. Here's a sell-off. You're not in the trade, but you really like it. There's your opportunity to get into the trade at the 200. Just the opposite here at the VWAP. So the VWAP was a good common denominator, or one would say equilibrium for a support level, and it'd catch them on the knives. You know, I don't want to get off this subject yet, but I like to experiment. So when you're sitting here and you're flattered listening to Vegas and I on voice, go to different charts. Have 3 or 4 different charts set up. You know, have your VWAP chart set up. Usually this pre-market, Tesla's a good example. Jimmy's been calling 420 as a solid buy because we're starting to build up again. Here's another pennant flag. Could be breaking up to the resistance levels again. Tesla. I think we're going to get past 450, and you'll be shaking my first finger that we get to 500 by the end of the year. But different charts. This is the VWAP chart. This is my SMA chart that I use on a daily and on a yearly when I'm looking for support levels. And I'm looking for like real hard sell-offs. You know, here at the end of Tesla when it's really starting to get hot, bam, you know, bam, bam. Now we're oversold. Now we're getting above that 50, the 50-day SMA on a yearly. But it bounces, see, 3 good solid days of sell-off, bounce off the 50. 3 good solid days, come close, bounced up. I mean, that's a good spread right there, $40. Tesla's one of the easiest ones to scalp. I called this wrong. Figured it was going to break out, and it broke down. But what it did is it created buy opportunity. So that's the one stock that I did call wrong last week, or last month. But I did call the reversal, so maybe that flattens the pancake a little bit. Okay. So curl, let's give the scenario on what I think how curl's going to end up. CURLF. And we can talk about a few of these too, but so the low case scenario, we got to break 3-year resistance at 1123. Strong buy is going to be down in that $10 area if it wants to keep momentum up, and you can see that on the 20-day. Right down here, right around the 1046. If that doesn't hold, we can rebound on up. If not, we'll find a real strong buy at 985. CURLF. Remember, all my bullish indicators are bullish right now, but when you're up in a good trade, take your profit. They'll always pull back. You get a second chance. Next, Biden won. I haven't even paid attention to the news yet. ACB. Well, with a Biden victory, and same as if it was Trump, we're going to be bullish. The market's going to probably start throwing some cash into, probably get a little bit out of, I'd say, the military defense, and put more into infrastructure and pharmacy and banks. There'll be a lot of money going into Wall Street, so I think that's the way the market people are running now. It'll be pumped up a little bit. There might be a little bit of calmness in the air on some sides, on one side. So yeah, I think we'll still be bullish no matter what happens. Now, if it's contested, we could be having some more good volatile days. So any kind of pullback, people are still going to be bearish on the market. I think you can be bullish on the pullbacks. Just like the way I've been playing it for the last month. I've been playing it perfect. I ain't hardly swung anything, and last week I did, and every one of them was a hit. But you got to recognize in bottoms. If you buy at support, you got to recognize when something's overextended. When are we going to get that falling knife? When are we going to see them three black crows? When's that next chart pattern going to show up for the breakout? ACB. Here's one that's had a huge overextension. Okay, we're up over 100 and some percent in a couple of days. As you see, I already got it kind of charted out here. I'm going to keep it the way it is, but I see a low scenario of 8, maybe this area right in here, right around 883. Let me pull up this other chart. 750% pull back there. 883 I like a lot. I think we can pull back to that 883 area and bounce up. If we don't, we'll get down here to this slow scenario of 751 for a strong buy. Strong buy. And then the resistance we have to break is going to be up in here. We're bullish on this stock. It did have a nice little correction Friday. So that's the resistance we got to break right there. I'm doing this on an hour. So if I'm looking at a knife scenario, I would be looking down in here for a low case scenario for a strong buy. 751. If this thing knifes on us and it dropped, that's a $2 dip. So I'm taking that in consideration. Strong buy at 751. First and second, third support are these areas right in here. 931. I'd like to see hold, and then break these other three resistance levels to a double top at 1149. That's going to be the hard one to break. And I think with this scenario, like I said, I talked about with this sector, I think we can kind of consolidate a little bit, take a little breather. A lot of people have short attention spans. So that means that the momentum might not be as strong as it was last week. So any kind of pullback from here on out can retrace back up to like a consolidated area. And then right now, that consolidated area is right in this channel. The pivot point is going to be right in this scenario right in here, right around 960. So if we break on down and pull back a knife scenario, 751 holds or this 796, we can bounce back up to this consolidated area of 960. Now, if the momentum and the attention span is still there, the stock market has a short attention span. Don't forget it. Every week's a new week. So always walk in here on Monday with a new sheet of paper of watch list that you think might be accurate. Start jotting down these tickers that are running Monday morning. Now I've done that, and I've used them same tickers and traded them all week long. That's one way. Another way of trading knives. Another way I like to look for knives, and we'll get into these other two tickers here. But ACB, strong buy at 751 to 796 in case it knives. If it holds resistance, holds this support level at 960 and bounce on up, we got a hard resistance of 1149 to break. Knowing that each one of these trends is a resistance level. So you're willing to jot this, stop this video at any time and write these numbers down if you don't got them down already. That's my scenario on ACB. But we've got to we're trying to look at every day's a knife. You know, especially on these breakout stocks. See something here. And I'm always looking at different charts. As long as we're holding that 9 EMA, we're still bullish on the trade. And it's bouncing off that 34 EMA right here. But once you start seeing these lower highs, we did have a double top here, so I was thinking about it. But we did have a lower high right here. That's when you start, and we had to pull back. That's when you want to start thinking, okay, I got a second chance to get out of this trade. Now, is the knife going to be coming? Can I get in a better price? You're up here, you've got a second chance to get out at 1165. They actually gave you 3 chances with a double top. Failed that double top. Would you have rather got out of that or held on to it and maybe got scared and jumped out at 10 bucks? Or maybe even want to get back in it on the dip, because these are very fluctual trades. Any pot sector, any penny stock, any breakout stock, they're going to pull back. And look, it almost pulled back to the previous highs that we had on this ascending triangle for your second entry. And then it created another flag, higher low, and bam. A lot of different scenarios when you're in these trades. But here, if you got out at the resistance low, up the highs, you'd never got back up here again for the day. You end up coming down here right around 931. Me, as an experienced trader, I recognize things like this. He's out already? Why ain't you still in the trade? Then I'm asking myself down here, why are you still in the trade when I got out up here? Would you rather buy it at support and sell at resistance, or would you rather buy at resistance and sell at support? Previous breakout here, the ascending triangle, we end up pulling right back to it. See what I'm saying? They always pull back to chart patterns. So if anybody ever gets onto you for getting out of a trade too soon, when that thing's down here, get back in their face and say, hey, I got out up here and I got back in down here and I got back out up here again. While you're sitting up here at a loss, I've made twice as much money as you did because I'm looking for these patterns. But I don't people trade the way they want to. They might can think, oh, well, I'm going to run on up. I'm ready to get back in trade now. Excuse me for a second. So let's look at another one. We could do another pot stock. Can you cover Siri and Disney? Disney's another one. SIRI. I have XM radio and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Now you can, I like it because you can also use it at home. You can use it on a mobile device. So let's look at the yearly chart. Now I got some old trend lines on here that go back way back in the day. So I'm going to go ahead and erase it. About 3 years old. I'm looking at the yearly chart. Car sales were pretty good. I'm trying to find an equilibrium in this chart that kind of flattens everything out, and I'm thinking right about in here, right there, right about there. So it's going to be the equilibrium. That's going to be the pivot point on the yearly. That's now going to become support level. Then I'm going to go right down in here. I'm going to look for another support, lower scenario. Body of this candle on the daily matches up pretty much all the way across. We got matches up down in here, matches up here, here, there, here. So that's going to be your low support area. Now we're going to try to find a resistance in this channel. We're creating a channel. And that's going to be right up in here. See right there? I just looked at that and then I noticed this over here. So we're going to come right up to here and we're going to draw that. There's our little channel. The thing above that's going to be a gift. So the gift comes up right around 618. There's a nice little spot right in here. I like this right in here. Then a low strong buy, no lower than down here at 553. Then you got this place right in here. It's equilibrium into that channel. Right there. So I'm getting it off this height right here. So pull up the 20-day. Shares of several media companies are trading higher. U.S. market strength. Presidential results. And I don't believe everything the media tells you, because a lot of it's fake, and that will pump the market up and down either way. Upgrade. Yeah. So this is kind of a tech stock. I think we can get down here to 577 for a strong buy. 577. And then resistance level is going to be right around the 609 to the 618 area. Right now it's probably going to pull back and get down here to 577. And strong, 570 is going to be a real strong buy. Siri. And next, Disney. Let's look at Disney. So that's the knife scenario on that one. DI, always look for a support level. Disney, another busy week, earnings ahead. Disney. We got, the only thing about Disney that bothers me is the increase in COVID. We have winter months coming. I think we can pull back scenario on Disney. We've got a resistance level on the 20-day right here at 128.41. Support level right here at 124. Anything under that's going to be a strong buy. I'm thinking right around the 120 area has to hold. Let's go look at the yearly, see if I missed anything on a year. See, we had that kind of choppy oversold area. Once it pulled back down here under 120, it was a strong buy. Now we're getting back up to resistance levels. We got a real hard resistance right here, 127.31. So that's going to be our hard scenario resistance. Because of this top right here, and we had this bottom right in here. Couldn't break here, pulled back. Same thing, same scenario right here. So this channel is support between 120 and 127.46, 127, whatever the number that is. Anything above that's going to be a gift. Anything below, then I'm going to raise this. Strong buy to right there. 121.30. That's where our strong buy is going to be if we want to keep it in this channel. That'll give us a higher low presentation, and then we can maybe break it back up to 127, maybe 128. But pull back support 121, Next week's resistance, 128.41, 127 to 128 on Disney. Anything above it, going to be a gift. Anything else? Tesla. Did I do Tesla already? Not really. Post pendant flag, still working on it. We did get oversold down here where I kind of messed my trade up. If it had held up my trend, we'd still be in the trend right now. So I think we're going to squeeze again, maybe have a little bitty pullback, no lower than that 420. I like this area right in here, 418.91. That's going to be like my low support when we get in Tesla here. I think we can still hold the trend, keep this flag going, squeeze out a couple more days, probably next week, and then break on above to hit my $500 target. Definitely to 500 into next month. Tesla. Anything else? Anybody understand the concept on catching knives? Any questions? Let's do workhorse. Let's do the SPY. We definitely remember my scenario on, oh, see, look at the SPY here. Biden trend line, we didn't touch it. We come real close to the Biden trend line. See that? Real close to it. But we didn't make it. So we're back up here to the resistance levels on the SPY. We do have lower highs. I'm bullish on the market big time. And I know that the fat cats are bullish on the market now that Biden's a winner. Because they know a lot more spending is going to happen. So I need to try to find me a support area. And I got to raise my bar. Got to raise my bar. So I'm thinking maybe this week I want to see this 342.71 hold. Why I'm saying that is because that's about where all the patterns started here. We had the tops and we had the pullbacks. She kind of held right in here. So that's the one that that's going to be my low scenario for this coming. I'm raising the bar. I had a low bar right here. And we did come almost to it. Almost hit that 200. So I'm raising the bar up to a pivot point. And it's going to be right here. I want to set 342.71 hold on the SPY. If we do have a pullback for a couple of days, then we'll get back up here and try to break this 351.14 resistance. And same with SPX. I was real close on this one. Let's see if I still have that same chart up. I had the same kind of scenario where she had that, and I was looking for a reversal. If we did hit this lower trend line, we come real close to hitting that 32.1786 that I had marked down for a buy. We did hit this area right in here, and that was right around the 35. So we'll pull up the 20-day. Real close to it. But then last week was just beautiful. So we're consolidating. I think we're going to pull back a little bit on the SPX too, but we're going to raise the bar on it. It's going to be no lower than this 34.31 area. So that's what, $70 difference. Keep that in mind on the SPX. And what else? Jamia. And we'll do workhorse. Jamia is another one. Centron's bullish on Jamia. It pulled back to bounced off my support level that I talked about last week, right down here. Bounced right off of it. Everything bounced. So any of these calls we made last week, and you took any of them, see, we bounced back up to the resistance level up here. You see that? Now we're creating a little flag. Low scenario is back in this channel of red right in here, but we're going to raise the bar. We're raising the bar on all these. That means we're stair-stepping up. So if it knives and pulls back, we want to look for previous highs, and that's right in this area right in here. So we're going to have three support levels. We're raising the bar. That's these support levels right in here, this support channel. I mean, we could bounce on up and break that 20 next week. Okay? Trend's holding up pretty well. Now just needs time to consolidate. Knife, low scenario, no lower than the 1736. I'm thinking of knives. We're looking back for previous highs. Place of consolidation. So when I'm looking at a knife scenario, we come in here first thing in the morning, this thing can pull back to 18 and bounce right back to 1890. You can look at the chart. See, the chart can do that. The chart can pull back and bounce right back up stronger than ever. This is a strong trade. JMIA, same as PTON. I'm bullish on PTON. Bullish. The only problem is supplies. They can't meet demand. With not meeting demand, they're going to have to spend more money. So we got to take that into consideration. That is a reason for it to pull back and snap right back up. Great example. Bam, you know. So we want to look for places of previous highs or previous lows for these pullbacks. You know, low scenario 118.05 maybe. Then break resistance up here at 131. Any kind of pullback, especially on a bullish trade, give it a little time, give it a little time, give it a little time, give it a little time. But, I mean, last week, this is even volatile. I think the bears are going to start getting squeezed out. Because they're getting worried. You know, it bounces up so strong. That's kind of mindset I got on Piton. I love Piton. Found out I had real high blood pressure, and I've been on the treadmill and treating myself a little bit better. I always thought I'd treat myself pretty good, but you never know. Next. I think that's about it. I hope we enjoyed it. Always remember, when catching knives, there's different reasons for a knife. A lot of them are because of the fundamentals of a company. Could be a new supervisor. It could be earnings were good. Maybe earnings were bad. Maybe there was some lawsuits involved. But maybe just profit takers. Those are the best kind right there. Follow the trend. Take your time. Don't jump right in on a knife. Go back in history and look for places of consolidation. If you have to go back 3 years, do so. Especially on a breakout. Know when the stock's overextended. Know when it, all kinds of scenarios that can cause knives. Fear, elections. You know, I told everybody in the room I was scalping for a month and a half. That's all I did. I found opportunity last week because we were down so far. And almost every stock but Tesla. And I called Tesla a lot sooner, so it wasn't because of last week, but still yet. So that's what you got to look for. I think that's about it. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Next lesson, we're going to talk a little bit more about moving averages. Next Saturday, and how I use the moving averages when I'm doing a day trade. I want to buy an entry or want to scalp. You know, I'm pretty well-rounded trader. I've been asked, people's asked me to talk more about swing trades, so I've been doing that for the room. But I won't get into a swing trade unless I know I'm at a bottom or support level. I just can't see buying at resistance. A lot of good calls are being made, but there's a lot better places to get in a trade. So always remember that before you jump into something. What would Jim do? Would Jim wait for a pullback? Would Jim buy here at previous resistance levels that now have become support? How long? When would Jim exit? Would he exit at the higher lows? Would he exit a triple top scenario? Does he recognize a descending pattern and wants to get out now before it's too late? Or does Jim want to buy at support? I don't want to chase this stock. I want to wait for I want to wait for a knife. I know it's overextended. So where am I going to catch this knife at before it even gets there? That's the kind of scenario you want to always think. So I hope everybody enjoyed it. I'll see you next Saturday. We'll make this a Saturday event till winter is over, or as long as I can breathe. Thank you very much. I love stocks. Any final questions? Any stock you want me to look at? I'll do couple more. All right. Well, adios, amigos. Thank you very much for showing up. This will be recorded, so you can always go back and look at it. I'm going to go in there and cook me some stew and watch something. Do something. If you ever need me, if you ever have any remarks, go down to the comment section down below and I'll answer every one of your questions. I'm bullish. Post-election, I'm bullish. We're going into the Christmas season. The increase in corona cases are true, but also the death rate is a lot lower. So I think the next scenario is going to be, you know, we're going to have like a 2-day sell-off or maybe a 3, but always remember on that 3rd day, that's when you want to start looking for supports and buying on these dips. You have a nice 3-day hot run, 5-day run, you might want to take a little profit. A lot of these stocks we talk about are continued runners. I think the pot sector will be one too. We're going to start consolidating, and we're going to start hitting them 3-year resistance levels, and that's where you want to start taking your profits. We got a big old, Missouri's opened up a little store here. Be checking it out. I think that's about it. Tilray. Let's look at Tilray real fast. Tilray and Cron. Quran, I've been shouting out. Tilray, I've been shouting out the buy down there around $6. We've had a nice little breakout, pulled back on Friday. Found a little support level. So I think the way I see this, and now look at the 3-year. Pull up the 3-year chart. Just like you remember $300 on this trade? I do. We called this ding here, we called this down at $24. Within a couple months, we're at 300. So I think we can get back up to nice little levels, not near that. But if I'm looking at this 3-year, if you're looking at the 3-year, a $20 would be a nice little spot. That's a 100% gain from here. If this continues to run right in here, I think you could probably get back up in that area. But let's look at the yearly. No, we're not going back to 300. But see, I think we can get, with this run, if we break this resistance right here at 1106, that's what you got to look at. You got to look at these scenarios. It can pull back and knife on us. But I think the sector is getting stronger and stronger. To do that, you'd want to probably go back here to the previous high that we had right here. Right there at 871. Now, I want you to jot that down on paper. If that 871 holds, we can get back and start building a channel in here of resistance at $11. The pivot point in that channel is where we closed at, right in here at 968. See what I'm saying? So the long resistance swing trading idea would be up here, right around 11. Strong buy right down here at 862, and a pivot point. So I'd either use it either way. If we broke this and we run it up here, I would probably take that. If we broke down, I'd probably sell it here at the pivot point, 977. That's just how you kind of look at things like that. When you're looking for resistance levels, look for that previous resistance high. Okay? And those are hard to break. Those are hard to break. Cron. Doobie knows where I've been calling Cron at. Right around $5. Anytime it touched down here, it was a strong buy. Now look at it. Now we're flirting up here. Resistance levels. $8. So that's a hard one to hold. It's going to be a hard one to break. If we do break past that area, anything above that's going to be a gift. Now if you pull back the 3 years, and I've got last year's trend lines on here. You go back 3 years, this sucker ran all the way up to 21.20. I called this stock out at $8, and it hit my number at $20. If anybody's been trading with me knows that. I called that out from down here all the way up to about 20. And then we've had the pullback. So this was a good run. I think what we're going to have now is going to be a momentous run to maybe an equilibrium somewhere right around on this $10 area, 986. It's about a pivot point. I don't think you'll have the run like you did here. But further down the line, you'd be thankful you got down here around $5-6 on Cron. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and shut her down. Let me get my... Always remember, we got a little Twitter link here. You're on Twitter, hit that Twitter button. We also have our Stock Twits Pinterest YouTube channel and our store. If you ever want to buy any merchandise. We've got face masks in here. Oh, I mean ladies' panties. There's a face mask right there. Everybody have a good weekend. Always here if you ever want to reach out. Always remember to look for patterns, trend lines, resistance lines. Buy at support, sell at resistance. When the market is red, I am always green. 99% of the time. One trade at a time. Bye-bye.